Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this I gotta learn how to say that word, Connectivity Committee meeting to order. Well, welcome to everyone. First item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Has everyone looked at it? Anything to add or demit? See no one wiggling. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, before
Yes.
we accept a motion, I'm just confirming that we have an additional item for local municipal partner connectivity question responses
All right.
included.
With that addition, is everyone happy? Okay, now I'll entertain a mover and seconder, please.
So moved, Tom.
Moved by Dave, seconded by, who do I see? Dominique. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote, please. Catherine?
Oh, there we go. Mike Andrews. Okay, he's indicating yes. Councillor Giguère.
Yes.
Warden Mennel.
Yes.
Sean Southern.
Yes.
Justin Pennings.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
5-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Next item is adopting our minutes from October the 8th. I assume everyone has read them. Are there any errors or omissions? I'm not seeing any activity. Again, I'll look for a mover and seconder to adopt them.
I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Seconder, please.
Pennings can second.
All right, thank you. Further discussion? If not, I'll ask for the vote to be called. Go ahead, Catherine.
Mike Andrews.
Yes.
Councillor Giguère.
Yes.
Warden Mennel.
Yes.
Sean Southern.
Yes.
Justin Pennings.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
And I correct myself, 6-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. All right, move on to disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. And again, I'm seeing no one wiggling, so we'll assume we have none. Item 4, literature review from library staff. Who have we got there?
Hi, Meryl Taylor and Aaron Braun.
Okay, welcome and please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members. We had a recommendation that the Elgin County Connectivity Committee literature review submitted by Aaron Braun, Natalie Marlowe, Meryl Taylor be received and filed for information. At the request of the Elgin County Connectivity Committee, a consolidated literature review was developed regarding rural broadband internet projects that have been successful solutions for the Ontario communities. This literature review profiles 5 communities in Ontario and Alberta that have not been formally reviewed by the committee, have implemented successful rural broadband internet projects. Communities profiled include Amherstburg, Ontario, Olds, Alberta, Chatham, Ontario, Chapleau First Nations, Ontario, and Temiskaming and Ngomai, Fayette, Ontario, given that the County Connectivity Committee has current knowledge of Eastern Ontario Regional Network, SWIFT, and PacketWorks, these projects were not reviewed. The purpose of this review is to identify ideas and solutions for existing knowledge gaps in and Elgin County and contribute further understanding of this topic. So for discussion in the profiles of each 6 rural communities below, the discussion addresses points of interest to the Connectivity Committee, including private-public partnerships, technologies used, project cost, and contribution of the participating municipality. Hand it over to Erin.
So for the Amherstburg project, the town of Amherstburg, Ontario gave Bell Canada a proposal and they committed to a 2-year project whereby no rural customer would be left out. Each customer in the community was connected to fiber internet, and up until this project, Swift was the town's only option, which they were not interested in pursuing because they felt it was outdated technology. The $12 million project was paid for in full by Bell Canada, and while the town wouldn't be making any monetary contribution to the project, it had agreed to provide any resources needed to expedite the process, including streamlined access to permits and city records. It's important to note that Essex Power and Hydro One were very receptive to the plan.
Olds project. Olds, Alberta is the location where Canada's first community-owned and operated fiber to the premises network started. In 2004, Technology Committee Olds Institute for Community and Regional Development began focusing on laying the foundation for this connected community with the development of an open telecommunication network. And this project was a collaboration of schools, governments, and community leaders brought together by the Olds Institute for Community and Regional Development, created by the Community Learning Campus and ONET, which is a local internet service provider. This project used fiber optics and cost between $13 and $15 million. It was financed using a bank loan or a loan bank by the town of Olds and a line of credit by a local bank. I just wanted to show the links at the bottom here. The one with the municipal world talks about the collaborative venture. There's also 2 other links there from Press Reader. One's a Vancouver Sun article, 2013. The other a Calgary Herald, 2013. You will need your library card to access those links. Oh, and then the next one's mine too. Chatham Project. TechSavvy, which is Canada's largest independent internet service provider, is headquartered in Chatham. TechSavvy Solutions will build an open access fiber network in Chatham and surrounding areas. They've never built their own network entirely from scratch, but they will build a fiber to premises network in rural Chatham, Kent. TechSavvy and the municipality of Chatham, Kent announced a joint effort. The municipality intends to invest $6.5 million to facilitate an open access fiber backbone connecting communities in Chatham, Kent. This project would develop high-speed fiber broadband network in Chatham, Kent. TechSavvy intends to invest up to $26 million over 18 months in the development of its fiber network. Also, the latest article in Press Reader has to do with a high-speed network coming to Delaware Nation, where Swift is in partnership with TechSavvy Solutions. And
So for the Chapleau First Nations project, Project Chapleau was the first wireless mesh broadband network pilot in Canada beginning in 2005. This was a joint initiative between Bell Canada, Nortel, and the township of Chapleau to bring high-speed internet to 3 First Nation communities in the Chapleau area and to research the impact of advanced technology on rural and dispersed communities. The successful public-private partnership was further supported by the Northeastern Ontario Communication Network, or NeoNet, a not-for-profit organization that is supported by the Federal Economic Development for Northern Ontario, or FedNor. With $513,600 in support from FedNor, 2 Chapleau area connectedness projects were supported. Within that, $27,600 went to the township of Chapleau to hire an IT coordinator / trainer to work on Project Chapleau, and the remaining $486,000 went to NeoNet to provide 3 First Nation communities with high-speed broadband using a DSL internet solution. Moving on to Temiskaming and the Gogama Folliot Area Project. This was based on stakeholder input, and the CEO of NeoNet mentioned in an article that I read that it was their mission to equalize access to the health, education, and social services that our urban counterparts take for granted and offer our youth a viable alternative to leaving the North. NeoNet and 18 partnering rural communities completed this project in 2009 with the support of FedNor, the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, and Onterra. Without the public-private partnership, the $7,100,000 infrastructure would not have been a possibility. Onterra developed a wireless broadband network using the Canopy Advantage system, which was supplied by Motorola Canada, to provide a last-mile link to subscribers. This was a good fit for servicing the dispersed low-density populations in the project. The system also featured a number of wireless access points located at the tower sites in the 18 participating communities. The wireless network is connected to Ontario's existing fiber optic network at Timmins, Kirkland Lake, Englehart, New Liskeard, and Temagami.
And so in conclusion, this review profiled 5 communities in Ontario and Alberta that have implemented successful rural broadband internet projects. The purpose of this review was to identify ideas and solutions from the profiled communities for knowledge gaps that exist in Elgin County. These profiles will contribute further understanding of this topic and ultimately what the role of Elgin County is in supporting these gaps. Any questions?
Well, thank you, ladies, for that presentation. I have one question. I believe it was the first one was with SWIFT. They made a statement back in 2017 that the equipment was outdated.
So I couldn't really, it was just a quote that was in one of the articles there that's attached, where the mayor had suggested that they weren't interested in pursuing SWIFT in that community because they felt that the technology was already outdated.
I guess my point, I said in the attitude and the SWIFT is fairly different than it was 3 years ago, and that's a good thing. They're going in the right direction. So
Yeah.
I certainly.
Yeah, not my opinion. I'm just translating what their thoughts were.
Welcome any questions to the ladies. Comments?
Mr. Chair, it's Dominique.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm wondering if it would be possible as a follow-up report, just because I think always in charts. I would be interested if the information is available for each project to know, I think the dollar figure is already provided, but I'm curious to know then how many properties, the number of properties or businesses that were connected, the number of kilometers that were connected, whether it was fiber or wireless or hybrid, and the remaining number of properties that are still not connected, assuming this was not, even though they claimed that the entire municipality would be connected. I have questions about that. So if we could have a table for these 5 examples, if that information is available, that's something I would find useful.
I guess certainly we can ask staff to look into that. Some of them appear to be very, very remote. I'm picturing a lot of water and hills, mountains, and trees too. So some of them would be, I guess they all have challenges. In many ways they're alike, but a lot of ways they're not. But we can certainly look into that. At least I shouldn't speak for staff. Is that possible?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think that's a great suggestion, and it also aligns with the committee's action plan, which we'll review later on in the meeting. But one of the actions as part of the environmental scan is to assess what other municipalities have done, and that action is to follow the literature review. So we'll touch base with these municipalities and these areas and regions and find out the outstanding information that Councillor Jaguar has noted. I would just ask and suggest that it's useful feedback to hear from other committee members as well, if there's anything else you'd like included in that chart or any other questions you'd like us to follow up on when we reach out to these municipalities.
Now's your chance to ask questions or offer comments. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, it's Justin Pennings. Yeah, I think maybe she touched on it a bit, but I would like to know the population density of some of these areas. I think that's one of the key differences that you'll see in some of the costs, especially.
Nika's nodding her head in agreement, so yes, good point. Any further comments?
Cecil speaking. Just to extend what Dominique was requesting, I think it's an appropriate thing to follow up on. I'm just quickly looking at the National Broadband Internet Service map. I'm zoomed in on Amherstburg, and it looks like the built-up urban area has been done, but anything outside of that still shows slower 25/5 megabit speeds. So I would like to see, just like Dominique has said, what is the actual coverage? Also, to the comment about the SWIFT being outdated, I just wanted to confirm that too. I've got the quote here. Like most municipalities, our other options for stuff like SWIFT, the SWIFT initiative, I don't mind saying, is not very swift as far as we're concerned. 20 to 30 years on technology that's already getting older is just not acceptable for the town of Amherstburg. So I'm assuming based on that comment, he's talking about the timeline and getting it installed and that the fiber optic itself will be dated. Maybe he doesn't understand how fiber optics works, but regardless, that was just a clarification on the comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And again, SWIFT today is doing, the attitude has changed. They're contributing greatly now, so I'm pleased with that. Further comments from the committee?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, maybe it was clear to the rest of the committee, and if that's fine, if that's true, that's fine. But there's a little uncertainty on my part just going through that quickly as we did in the interest of time, I guess, of what some of the funding mechanisms were, because I noted on the one there were loans there. I'd kind of like to know what the source of those loans were and who took the loans out, those types of things. Some of them was pretty clear. Bell Canada contributed 100% in Amherstburg, so we know that one, but some of the other ones.
Certainly, we can look for more detail, I guess. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good discussion. Anyone else? We'll leave that for staff. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, perhaps just a status, if there could be also a note on the status. So for example, the Amherstburg one did say it should be completed by July 2020, which we just passed. So always curious to know the projected versus actual, both in cost and in time.
Good point. Anything further? All right, we'll leave that for staff to pursue. Good discussion. Let's move on to item 5, action plan update. Julie, who's going to lead this?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. We are currently in meeting number 4, and I mention that only because I'll be referring to successive meetings. So for this meeting, we received a literature review, and that was really just phase 1. We anticipated that committee members would require additional information for each of these examples as well. We'll continue to investigate whether there are other best practices or opportunities to learn from municipalities who have developed solutions to their connectivity challenges, and we'll bring forward more information and additional information about other municipalities if we happen to come across that. and that'll be on an ongoing basis. Also, as part of the environmental scan and work plan, thank you to Mike Andrews for facilitating a connection with the executive director of the Independent Telecommunication Providers Association. We anticipate that the executive director will be available to attend your next steering committee meeting, which we have tentatively put down in this form as November the 5th, but that of course is up for discussion at the end of today's meeting. Another action was to talk to communities who've successfully implemented connectivity solutions. That is resulting out of today's literature review. So we'll follow up with those 5 municipalities and provide more information as much as we can provide to you at your next meeting, meeting 5 as well. We expect that it may be hard to gather all of this information in a 1-week turnaround. So it's likely we'll also present some of this at your 6th meeting. Gathering existing data is ongoing. And at your next meeting, we expect to be able to share information about Thames Valley District School Board. We know that SWIFT is an available resource on an as-needed basis, and we did have a great presentation from SWIFT at your last meeting. The draft survey is to be discussed at today's meeting, and we've attached that to your agenda today. And we'll distribute that survey following direction received from the committee. We hope to have an update from OMAFRA at meeting number 5 and Chamber of Commerce at your next meeting. Public health, we are working on gathering data from them as well, and you can expect that at your next meeting. For the end users survey, we have launched that, and the survey responses we expect to receive by October the 15th. And again, we discussed that timeline is a little bit fluid depending on the amount of feedback that we're receiving. We may reach out to the committee and extend that depending on, the survey was completed October 15th, but the timeline for receiving feedback remains a little bit fluid based on the volume of responses we are receiving. We have also attached a communications and distribution plan for your review, and we'll discuss that at today's meeting. We've gathered preliminary feedback from our local municipal partners about some local strategies working with ISPs. And we've received 4 out of 7 responses to date. So we'll share additional information at meeting number 5. As well, neighboring municipalities, Chatham-Kent, of course, was one of the municipalities identified in the literature review, and we'll share additional information at your next meeting. Potential infrastructure partners, so engineering services, local municipal partners, utilities, and any sort of infrastructure roadwork projects that we could be leveraging to install fiber. Brian Lima, our engineer, is working on this, and we expect to share a report with you at your next meeting. Similarly with Thames Valley District School Board. Current providers, the key action for today's meeting would be to the Internet Forum, and Alan Smith and Jim Bunchu will present a framework for your review, and we hope to receive committee direction so that we can finalize plans for the connectivity or Internet Forum. SWIFT, we received a presentation, and I know Barry Field is willing to come back. We'll give you an analysis following the receipt of end user survey feedback. Loans, and that's Infrastructure Ontario and other funding sources will be presented at meeting number 5. Connecting with our MP and MPP, we have established those connections and expressed an interest in set meetings for, I think, October 30th with the MPP, and November the 6th with our MP. So November 12th. I can read lips. Thank you, Catherine. We're looking forward to those meetings and being able to connect with senior levels of government. CRTC and Canada Infrastructure Bank, we will gather more information on both of those and present that meeting number 5. And then we continue to identify the role of the county in terms of what's missing, seeking council's support for and keeping them informed for any sort of activities of the committee and potential Made in Elgin solution for our connectivity challenges. And the risks are ongoing, of course, most notably COVID-19 pandemic and managing stakeholder and community expectations, and the public procurement process and seeking council's consent for any Made in Elgin solution will, of course, be expedited if we keep council informed. So the last set of committee minutes have been included in the upcoming council agenda. We'll continue to do that on a go-forward basis to make sure that our key stakeholders are well informed of the activities of this committee. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Much we've accomplished and I'm looking forward to meeting 5 already. County Council made this a top priority and I have to thank staff because you've also made it a top priority and people out in the community are starting to take notice of what we're doing. So good on you. Questions from the committee for Julie? Okay, not hearing any, but we're making some fast progress, good progress, so. No further questions? Next, Julie?
Sorry, if we could just back up a little bit, Mr. Chairman, I think we should receive the report from the Community and Cultural Services staff and provide direction from the committee to do additional research into those specific municipalities, report back at committee number 5, and then receive this report as well.
Sounds like it is. For that recommendation, I'll look for a mover and seconder.
So moved, Tom.
Moved by Dave.
Pennings can second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussions? I think we're ready for the vote.
Mike Andrews,
Yes.
Councillor Giguere,
Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, is this are we combining both recommendation, receiving both reports and the recommendation for follow-up report from staff? Is that what we're voting on?
What's your preference, Julie?
So for the first recommendation, it would be a combined, but it is only related to the literature review. So the literature review and staff direction to provide additional information, and then the action plan update would be a separate motion.
So is everyone clear on? I'm seeing some heads nodding, so I think we're ready for the vote.
Mike Andrews,
Yes.
Councillor Giguere,
Yes.
Warden Mennel,
Yes.
Sean Southern,
Yes.
Justin Pennings,
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
6-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you, Catherine. Are we caught up or do we, Julie?
I will move to receive the action plan.
All right. Confer seconder.
I'll second.
Mike, appreciate that. Any questions before we vote? Go ahead, Catherine.
Mike Andrews,
Yes.
Councillor Giguere,
Yes.
Warden Mennel,
Yes.
Sean Southern,
Yes.
Justin Pennings,
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes,
6-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Where are we at, Julie? Summary of discussion, or we're ready for the internet forum?
No, we're at the local municipal partner feedback.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to present some preliminary information that has been shared with the committee by our local municipal partners. I discussed local connectivity and the work of the connectivity committee with our local administrators at the October 12th weekly administrators meeting. And following that meeting, I sent out 6 questions just to kind of get a sense, a preliminary sense from our partners about what is happening locally to solve some connectivity challenges. So I apologize that when this information is complete, we expect that we'll share the additional information from the 3 outstanding municipalities at our next meeting. As well, hopefully once we go through this chart, the committee will provide some guidance and let us know whether there are some additional questions that you'd like us to ask of our local municipal partners. Perhaps there's some information missing from today's report, and just so you know, we'd be happy to follow up with any of our partners. So the first question we asked, are you aware of any internet service providers who are proposing work or who have completed work in your municipality? If so, provide some details. Who are the ISPs? Is it fiber, Wi-Fi, etc.? So for Bayham, NFTEC has proposed fiber project in Bayham, and the project is currently on hold because of the pandemic. And they provided the service area, which we will send out to all committee members and attach to the minutes of this meeting. Township of Southold, no work has been completed lately. Some work has been completed in the built-up areas. Dutton Dunwich has worked with PacketTel or PacketWorks, and they entered into an agreement on June 28th in 2017 to provide internet services to the residents of Dutton Dunwich. And West Elgin, PacketWorks completed some work a year ago. Fiber optic lines have been installed in most of the condensed areas of West Lorne and Rodney. And in August 2020, a new wireless service provider installed wireless equipment and offered services to rural residents. So the next question, did your municipality partner with ISP or otherwise to provide support to the ISP? And we asked that they provide detail of any in-kind support as well as any financial support that was provided to the ISPs. So for Bayham, road use agreement, land use agreement for utility structures was done in partnership, and as well permits for the use of municipal vacant land in exchange for services at municipal facilities. So a great example of some in-kind resources. Township of Southold, no partnership. Dutton Dunwich, so they have shared a chart for the partnership between Dutton Dunwich, which includes the use of municipal land for connectivity equipment, lease agreements, and locates. And West Elgin, the municipality assisted companies with in-kind contribution of labor, assisting them with various requests and providing them with additional information, repairing damage caused by drilling and other storage for their equipment. We asked if they had a map of coverage areas, and West Elgin indicated that they do, and that is attached to the presentation that we'll send out. Have you received any complaints from residents about connectivity, and what are the nature of those complaints? In general, Bayham confirmed, yes, there's a lack of availability of high-speed fiber internet, which shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. As well, Township of Southold, numerous complaints over the years have been received. Dutton Dunwich, councillors and staff have received many complaints regarding wireless providers who promise fast internet and fail to deliver. And the cost of the service is also an issue. And I suspect that we'll receive similar feedback through the end user survey, which is currently out in the community. And in West Elgin, no complaints have been received. So The fifth question, has your municipality taken steps to lay the groundwork, i.e. conduit, for fiber during road construction projects? If so, where? And Dutton Dunwich was not applicable, and the other responses from the 4 municipalities was no. Are you aware of any business development initiatives that have failed as the result of the lack of broadband internet access? BAM said not specifically, though they know it is a significant concern to their business community and their community at large. For Southwold, not that the municipality has been made aware of. And Dutton Dunwich, this again is information we've received from the CAO. So without reaching out to all staff and council, it was hard to discern whether that is the case. Though Heather Bow could comment that they know of a couple of home-based businesses that have chosen to move because of poor internet. And for West Elgin, lack of internet affects the real estate market and the decline in West Elgin's population. We also asked what are the priority areas within their municipality for access to broadband internet access. BAM noted the entire community. However, if a specific area was required, the municipality would comment Port Burwell, Vienna, Stratforville, Richmond, Eden, New England, which is Plank Line and Heritage Line corridors. As well, Township of Southwold noted rural areas, and we're aware that those low density areas are particularly challenging to reach. Dutton Dunwich noted South Dutton Dunwich along Lake Erie has limited service available, and the Iona area is also poorly serviced. For West Elgin, a focus on rural areas, especially those with no internet access, and the ones that are still using the traditional dial-up connection. Then we asked, and that wraps up the key questions that we asked, and we summarized it in that chart. And then there's supplementary information that will be sent out to all of you following this meeting. And we will provide follow-up information at your next meeting. And just to remind you, we are happy to follow up with any additional questions or gather more information as needed. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Open the floor for questions for Julie. Julie, one from me, like construction season is drawing to a close. Probably be a good idea looking ahead towards spring that we draft some kind of a policy. We're doing intersections that we're laying some ducts. Is that not a good idea? I think a lot of municipalities are starting to talk about it. But I think there's questions like how deep and et cetera, and what types of construction materials and that. So probably a policy that we can all start sharing and thinking about at least.
Yes, so you'll recall from the action plan that at meeting number 5, so your next meeting, we'll have information from the county engineer who has connected with other municipalities who have undertaken such works or who have come up with a plan to put conduit under each of their capital road infrastructure projects. So we hope to have some preliminary costs and some ideas of the challenges or risks associated with doing so, and balance those with all of the pros. So we'll bring that information to the committee, and following that discussion, I think would be an appropriate time to discuss any sort of policy or future budgetary considerations regarding building conduit into our road projects.
Okay. Further questions for Julie?
Mr. Chair, through you to Julie.
Certainly. Go ahead.
I apologize if I missed it at the beginning. The municipalities that have not responded yet, is it just a matter of time? Is it the plan to answer a little bit later?
Yes, we expect that we'll receive those other 3 responses sometime before your next meeting.
Wonderful, thank you.
I apologize. I'm the one who was supposed to answer it for Malahide, and I just have not gotten around to it.
Okay.
Understandable. It's a fast pace.
I noticed Central Algon doesn't have one, so I'll maybe chase that one down as well. All right, nothing else? Item 7, Julie?
Yes, item 7 is Alan Smith and perhaps Jim Bunchu, and they'd like to review the internet forum with the committee. And we're seeking some pretty firm direction from the committee so that we can proceed with getting this all ready to go.
Thank you, Julie. So as outlined in the work plan, staff are suggesting to hold a rural internet forum or connectivity forum. And today I'll present with you just a draft outline for the committee's consideration. So when we're looking at the forum, we're talking what is the intent of the forum or the goal? So we took the theme of a made in Elgin solution, which has been quite, I say, throughout our previous discussions. So the intent is to provide information that will help the committee determine what approach to connectivity would deliver a made in Elgin solution. The participants to this forum, we are suggesting, of course, the connectivity committee members. We're also suggesting all members of county council, or MP and MPP. I think it'll be useful to have those individuals around the table so they get a solid indication of what is happening in Elgin County. But we also would like some input from the committee on what other participants should be invited. The platform we'll use will be WebEx, and WebEx has a function like many of these, like Zoom, for example, has a breakout room. So we will have our information, then we'll have a more focused discussions in these breakout rooms so we can gather all the information required. We are suggesting a morning of December the 3rd, and we'd like to input on that date. With respect to facilitation, the forum will be facilitated by county staff, and that will also be including the group discussions, the breakout sessions. We've allocated about 3.5 hours for the forum. We want to keep this compact. A lot of information, yes, in 3.5 hours, but we think it's doable. So a draft agenda would include a brief introduction of 5 minutes. Then we're looking at having an hour of community experiences, and we've included Chatham. I'll also include in here the Thames Valley School Board, but we also like to have 2 more, and we were suggesting the connectivity committee members could select from the best practice review the literature review that was just presented to the committee. Next would be presentations by the ISPs, and these presentations we would develop a standard template. So each ISP would be presenting similar information, so we can be comparing apples to apples. And these participants would be based on the willingness of ISPs to participate based on the survey findings. So we would have 4 ISPs, each having 15 minutes each to basically give a review of who they are and what they can do for Elgin County. Next, we would have an hour of reviewing of the survey results, and we would already have the major themed results of the survey, and we break down into breakout sessions. And from those breakout sessions, a report would then be presented at a future connectivity committee date. Then we wrap up for about 10 minutes and conclude. So that, in a nutshell, is a very high-level draft outline of the approach staff is suggesting to the committee. And if the committee is in agreement with this approach, there's still some outstanding questions we need answered. For example, participants, suggesting who should be around the table, the date, and also the community experiences. What 2 more communities would the committee suggest? So I'll leave it there, and I'll just ask if Jim Buncho has anything else to add to the draft outline.
No, Jim?
No, I don't have anything to add. It was a team effort between a group of us, Alan, Catherine, Al, Rietzma, and myself. So this is what we think will help move it forward, but we're certainly willing to take any feedback and modify accordingly.
All right, everyone having a first look at it here from the committee. Feel free to ask questions or suggestions. Go ahead. I'm taking that. Oh, Dominique, go ahead.
Yeah, just so I think it would be great to take a little bit more time to reflect, and I think it's been indicated there might be other opportunities to comment or provide ideas. I'm just reflecting on yesterday I was able to attend the masterclass about rural connectivity, and one of the key messages was to not be afraid of quote unquote shaming the ISPs. And to use the court of public opinion. And so to that end, a thought that comes to mind is wondering, you know how at the end you have the presentation, I think is of the results of the survey. And I'm wondering if that was presented earlier and was made available to the ISPs, and part of their presentation would be to account for some of the findings we may come across. So just a thought, but I think it was a very, very clear message that we don't need as a municipality to shelter the public from the ISPs. And in fact, we need to be the bridge where both parties need to listen to each other. So, and I think you're saying that even if we're in WebEx, the public would still be able to see, perhaps not participate because that can be unruly. But so those were my 2 thoughts with just thinking out loud.
What do you think of that, Alan?
Yeah, I think that we could definitely incorporate that because we're looking at the results of, I believe, the ISP survey and also the results of the public survey. So we have 2 surveys that we can maybe have a summary prior and to provide to the ISPs, for example. Another comment, Councillor Giguère, that you made, were you expecting, or was the committee expecting this to be open to the public as a general, be able to view it online, but only limit participation to those on the list? But were you looking at having a public, enabling the public to view this form?
Go ahead, Dominique.
Yeah, I'm thinking yes, if the technology, if the logistics are not too difficult. I think the more open, and again, rather than I don't even know if it would be recorded, but it's about, like I said, bringing together the ISPs closer to the issues and having to face the public and not just speak to us. So my first instinct is to say yes, if logistically and technologically possible. And if others agree, I'm just one voice.
I would tend to agree, but I throw it open to, is it possible?
So my recommendation through you, Mr. Chair, to committee members would be that we record the session and post the recording, if that's suitable.
I'm fine with that, but the rest, feel free to voice your opinion.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I would hate to have a forum where it was open to the public where they contribute. I'm afraid that you get too many people involved and you wouldn't gain anything.
If I might, sorry, your chairperson. I know Mal, not that it's completely related, but both Dominique and Dave can relate to this. When we had our council meetings for our police review committee, we had a fixed number of public allowed in the building. We did it through Eventbrite. People could contact and schedule themselves there. I don't know if it's feasible, but maybe something similar could be done. And given the technology, and most of the municipal sites do have high-speed access, maybe a select few people from each municipality, maybe just in the breakout rooms, or maybe a selected leader from each site, maybe be able to present. I just feel if we're really wanting to get input from the public, recording and showing it after the fact isn't really doing due diligence, but we can control the numbers, control the flow if we have people pre-register. And if you want a true geographic representation of what's happening through the county, I think the best way to do that is at each municipal site, if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm not pretending to have the answer, but I like the discussion of the possibilities.
And through you, Mr. Chair, certainly because I'm not sure what would be the difference with the recording. I agree that it doesn't need to be open for full participation, because that's a different type of forum. But I think if the same way I think we're streaming live now, I would recommend the same thing. And I think it was successful for, as Cecil was saying. So at a minimum, I would say it should stream live so that anybody who wants to see can see. We could consider opening a few seats that could be manageable. So again, so when we do breakout sessions, like I've said from the first meeting, that voice of the end user is always secondary. And I'm really trying to bring it part of the conversation so that none of us are sitting in the breakout room speaking on their behalf. And I know we'll have survey, but it's easy to get caught up in our own ideas. So yeah, it could be limited to, if we have 5 breakout rooms, it could have 5 participants, at least a representative from the community, something like that.
Further
If I
opinion?
may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So I think we have to define really what the purpose of this internet forum is in order to establish kind of the roles of the public and the roles of the committee and the roles of ISPs, and really tailor the agenda accordingly, because I see this as being part one. So this would be a conversation that the committee has with best practice municipalities who've rolled out solutions, as well as our ISPs who are doing work in our community. We could review the survey results with them. And then perhaps independent of this forum, you could have an end user forum where you gather a little bit more information from ISPs about what's possible, and then you explore those possibilities with the public in an end user forum as a suggestion. And that way we're not confusing the two. So I totally agree. This internet forum needs to be available to the public. We'll live stream, we'll record as much as we can, though we do get into a bit of a tricky situation with breakout sessions because it's hard to live stream those. But the primary aspects of this forum could be live streamed. And then I'm just recommending that perhaps the committee think about involving the public in a different way. So the public could see what's happening with ISPs, but then could have an opportunity to be engaged in the solution in a different forum.
Yeah, I could support that because it's a lot to cram in 3 hours. And I would say that as long as the end user, it also includes the ISP, so that we don't play the role of, sort of managing the relationship that, both parties need to account. So we facilitate almost their conversation so we can help come up with a solution. So yeah, I would agree. I would support a second forum with a different intent, like a follow-up.
I can support that as well. I think once the public get a chance to view this, they're going to forward questions on to us. So and that's what we want, is the more conversations and the more discussion we learn from it. Anyone else on the committee have a view?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I support Julie's proposal or Julie's suggestion on that from the perspective that I think if we're going to get any quality of information and out of the ISPs that has some value for this committee, I think it would be better if it was done in exactly that format. If this session is more of an information gathering session and then a secondary to bring it more public. I think they'll be good anyway, frankly, because it is fairly open, but I think there's a better chance that we'll get good information that we can actually make use of by following that kind of two-stream path.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Anyone else? Okay, good discussion.
If I may, Mr.
Certainly.
I think it would just be helpful to get confirmation from the committee about the length of the forum. So is 3.5 hours too long? And should we seek to take and have a forum that's 2 hours in length? What's reasonable?
I don't think I can handle 3.5 hours on screen. I'll tell you that one.
That's why I'm asking.
I tend to agree, like I would aim for 2, and if you want 20 minutes over, I can live with that. But if you set out to be 3.5 hours and it goes over that, you got heads nodding off.
Yeah. See if we can tailor it to 2 hours, Julie.
Sir, but through you, Mr. Chair, so I disagree. Just the master class yesterday was 3 hours and it flew by, and some would say we ran out of time. And so 3.5 hours may be a bit too long just in terms of availability. I can guarantee you, just from the forums that I facilitate online, 2 hours is not enough, because there's almost 20 minutes at the beginning that are written off for a number of between introductions and technology issues. And so 2 hours is definitely not enough if we're to actually achieve the outcomes that are designed. So 3 hours is my vote. And you would be surprised how quickly that goes.
Well, we're having a good discussion. I like this. I just looked at the clock. We've been at this for an hour. And then, it did fly by in my mind, but I could see 2 hours flying by with a whole forum like that. So do we need to put a time like we don't want an all-day thing, but we want the ability, we don't want to have 2 hours to shut it off when we're not even half done. But I'm looking for the rest of people to voice their opinion on this.
I'm still with the 2 hour time limit. And obviously you want to have some flexibility where you can go to 2 hours and 20 minutes, but 3.5 hours I think is too much.
So just if I may, Mr. Chairman, perhaps 2 hours of the actual unfacilitated session, or the introduction, the community experiences and presentations, and then 1 hour breakout and facilitated sessions to discuss the survey results. So that last hour is where participants are really engaged. The first hour, they're engaged in presentations, but in a different way. So maybe that meets committee members in the middle, where there's that 2 hours of formal presentation, 1 hour of facilitated breakout.
Open for other committee members' opinions.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I agree that 3.5 hours or even 3 hours is a long time to be on video, but looking at the stuff we want to do, I don't know that 2 hours is enough.
I'm starting to be convinced to lean that way as well. I don't, you're either going to be committed to sit in and go at it or not. I don't want to stifle conversation. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot to try and get done in 2 hours. I think if we made it 2 hours, we'd be doing a disservice to what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Anyone else? Encourage everyone to get a comfortable seat and let's go at it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, if we've confirmed to sticking to 3 hours for the, it would also just be helpful right now to confirm that the date and time, so the morning of December the 3rd, will work for committee participants, and that you can't think of any other community conflicts or other conflicts that may result in some challenges in getting participants to join us for this forum. So it'd be helpful to get that feedback.
Everyone grab their calendar and take a look at the 3rd of December. There is a Board of Health meeting in the afternoon. Would this be in the morning or what time of day, Julie?
This would be in the morning is what we're proposing.
I'm good with that.
Works for me.
Can you make that work, Justin?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Good. Sean?
Yeah, December 3rd works well for me.
Okay.
Us Malahide people have a council meeting that night, but beyond that, works for me.
So it sounds like there's general consensus there. It would just be helpful to circle back to the participant list. So we have Connectivity Committee, County Councilors, MP, MPP. Are there other individuals that you would suggest that we invite? I think aside from all of the ISPs.
Do we have a confirmation on how many ISPs or who the ISPs might be, or is this just a wishful list of 4?
Right now, that list is based on the number of ISPs who fill out the survey and express their willingness to participate in this way. But we do have at least the beginnings of a list of all of the ISPs who are undertaking work in Elgin and those who are undertaking work in surrounding municipalities. So we would have, I think, about 10 ISPs to invite. And team, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're in and around that number.
Can anyone think of someone else we've missed?
I was only asking about the ISPs to see if that might be a time savings option. That's all. I didn't know if we had a focused list or if we were still waiting for confirmation on who those people might be.
We did have a discussion in our group amongst about which ISPs would be interested. I mean, we doubt that the large carriers, Bell and Rogers, are going to be interested, but certainly it'd be great if they were. And I think what we would do is just if we could get a full cross section, is to get somebody from each of the different market segments to come in so that you can get a broad view of perspectives from large ISPs to small ISPs. And we can always expand it for future forums if we want to bring in more. But as you said, I mean, there's only going to be so much that we can absorb in the first day.
Your suggestions? Do you have enough information, Julie, to move forward?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that's for the first kind of preliminary framework for the forum. So now we have the date, we can start promoting the event and getting the word out there so that people carve out their morning for this important forum. I think another follow-up action item for the committee is once we do receive the surveys and review that information, it'll be important for the committee to help us establish what items we'll be discussing as part of those breakout sessions. So we'll write that down as one of our follow-up actions for the committee and circle back with you about, you know, what specifically would you like us to gather from the ISPs who are in attendance? That would be most helpful to your work as committee members.
Okay. Further discussion? Questions? Ready to move to item 8? Or do you need a resolution for that?
No, I think we can move ahead to item 8, which is the draft connectivity survey communications plan, which is Catherine, the Supervisor of Legislative Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to quick share my screen. You've all received a copy in the agenda of the communications plan for the Internet Connectivity Survey. So this just goes through a few of the steps that we have undertaken and are currently undertaking to promote the survey to the public. So we incorporated the feedback from the committee at our last meeting into the survey. We got feedback from Brian Michelli regarding the MFIPA concerns that may be associated with some questions. We got Brian's clearance on all our questions. We updated the electronic copy of the survey. We created a paper version of the survey, and we linked the electronic version of the survey on our website. It's on the main page, but it's also on the connectivity committee page of our website, which has a special URL, elgincounty.ca/connectivity-committee, to make it easier as a marketing URL in our different promotional items. We have drafted and sent a media release on behalf of the chair to our local media contacts, as well as shared it on our social media and our website, promoting the survey and promoting the reasoning behind the survey. We've designed newspaper ads and Facebook ads using the Canva program that we use to design a lot of our advertising with the special URL link in it. And we are now sharing that heavily on our social media accounts. We are booking 2 weeks of advertising to promote the survey in the Elmer Express, the Port Stanley Villager, and the West Elgin Chronicle. We are also going to be including print inserts promoting the survey link in all of the library curbside orders. So every time someone gets an order from one of our library branches, they'll receive a little bookmark with the survey link. We also have paper copies of our surveys available at our library branches as well. And we will be monitoring the survey and the uptake and how many people have filled out the survey. And at the end of this week, seeing how many people have filled it out. And if we feel that we need more promotion, we will be investigating the mass mailing costs and options through Canada Post to extend that as well and extend our reach that way. So that will be the next week. We'll be reviewing that and then explore any enhanced advertising and distribution as needed based on the uptake on the survey. So in terms of distributing it electronically, we have it on our website and are sharing it through all our social media channels. But we've also circulated the link to all of our local municipal partners who are sharing it on their social media and with their electronic contacts as well. We've sent it out to County Council, the Port Stanley BIA, the Elmer Chamber of Commerce, the St. Thomas Chamber of Commerce, all of our tourism members and economic development contacts, so the businesses in Elgin. And we've sent it to our Elgin Federation of Agriculture for electronic distribution as well. So as I go through this list, if there are any places that we have neglected to distribute and the committee has any ideas, please let me know, and we would be happy to distribute it that way as well. And of course, it's on our own accounts and our website. And for paper distribution, we have paper copies at our select local municipal partner offices based on offices being open to the public. We have paper copies at all of our library branches, and we also have paper copies at the Elgin Administration Building and to anyone who may request paper copies. So that's just a very quick communications plan and a summary of what we've been doing to get the survey out there and to promote it. I think that the uptake has been pretty good. I think within the first 2 days, I think Al can comment, but I think that we had at least 150, 160 people fill out the survey within the first 2 days. So that's good news. And I've seen it shared around quite a bit through my own social media connections. So I think we're getting quite a good uptake. But if the committee has any suggestions for any other promotions or any other groups that we should be sharing with, I would be happy to receive that feedback and to make it happen. Thank you.
I have one question. We've got the Federation of Agriculture for Elgin. Dave, what do you think? We've got the Christian Federation. They're still out there and prominent. Should they be included?
Well, you've also got, what's the other, there's 3 different farm groups. The
NFU, they still around?
The NFU, so
But the CFFA are quite, there's some pretty large farms there. Well, I'm just throwing that out for your thought.
I mean, it won't hurt to distribute to both of those parties. The other one was, I was wondering, maybe the school boards. Now that there's about a third of the kids are learning online, and I'm sure there's connectivity issues. Certainly, if we send it out to the school boards, they could pass it on to their students. I think that might have some good input as well.
Further thoughts? Done a good job so far, Catherine. That looks real good.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm already looking forward to meeting 5. I think this is rolling around real well. Good, good. Further comments? There's a lot of input from staff. I think I can speak on behalf of all the committee to thank you. Are we at that date of next meeting, Julie?
Not just yet, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
We have the draft internet service provider survey, which I will ask Catherine to review as well.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just going to get that document up as well. So this is the survey for the current internet service providers. So I think this is where we'd really like to get some feedback from the committee as to whether we're on the right track with the questions, if there's anything that we've excluded and that we need to add. And we'd like to get this survey out to our current internet service providers as quickly as possible so that we can inform our internet forum and other activities of the committee. The first question would be, do you provide internet service in Elgin County? Yes or no? If no, why not? And we'd include a text box so they could give us the reasoning behind why they don't service Elgin. The third question would be, if yes, which municipalities do you provide service in? And we will allow them to check all that apply. The fourth question would be in terms of letting us know which type of service that they provide. So they could check all that apply: fiber, DSL, wireless, a satellite, or cellular. The fifth question is in relation to the fourth question. So if they do provide wireless services, does the wireless equipment use licenses or is it unlicensed spectrum? So then they could choose between those two options. Or if they provide both, they could choose both. Number 6 would be to get them to let us know what are the barriers that exist to them providing service in Elgin County. So the cost of installing the infrastructure, access to funding, trees and physical obstacles, low population density, or other. And if they select other, then they'd be able to specify what that other reason was. Then number 7, what would help to remove these barriers? And so then we'll give them an open text box where they can answer how they think that these barriers to connectivity could be removed. We then ask them if they have applied for government funding for a broadband project, and if they have not applied, why? And then so that gives them an open text box to say, yes, we have applied and this is what we've applied for, or no, and this is why we have decided to not apply for this funding. And then just some of these questions also came from our work plan. Al just sent me an email saying that under our options for service, we should also add cable. So we can do that. And so question 9 and going on are some that came directly from our work plan that the committee established a few weeks ago. One is, what do you need to achieve the last mile? In an open text box for them to let us know. How can we work together to implement solutions? Another open text box. How do we make a business case work to build rural fiber? Another open text box. What are the most common customer complaints regarding rural internet access? And here's where we can either give them an open text box or we can give them a list of items to choose from, including cost and speed and other, and then give them a text box as well to indicate what other is. And then a question that we also have asked of our public, but just with a few different options. What are you willing to contribute? Check all at apply. So technical expertise, becoming a member of the connectivity committee, participating in the connectivity forum, contribute connectivity infrastructure or other. Number 14, if they've conducted a cost benefit analysis for building rural fiber, and if yes, are they able to share that information with us? Would they be willing to participate in a connectivity forum to assist in finding a solution to rural connectivity challenges in Elgin County? Yes or no? Would they be willing to meet with the connectivity committee chair, warden, and CAO to further discuss opportunities for partnerships in Elgin County? And number 17, if they're willing to engage in further dialogue with the County of Elgin, please provide an email address where they can be contacted. So that's just a very quick overview of some of the questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions or to take any feedback of additional questions that we should be asking.
I'm not hearing any.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, you can read these, the draft version a million times, and then, on your 15th time reading it, you pick out something new, and that's what's happened for me. So we just looked at the draft schedule for the internet forum, and then on this draft survey, we're calling it a connectivity forum. So I think we need to clarify whether we're calling the internet forum an internet forum or a connectivity forum, and then consistently use that language moving forward. Any thoughts from the committee about whether the forum we're hosting is an internet forum or a connectivity forum?
I'd have to say that using the term internet is more recognizable to people, just from that perspective.
That's helpful.
It's easier to say too, for some of us. Further thoughts?
I just had one more suggestion, which was we ask about government funding. I think it might be question 7 or 8. And I think it would be helpful to know there, number 7, 8. Have you applied for government funding? If you have not applied, why? So I think it might be helpful to know what funding they applied for. You know, could you, if you were successful, what funding did you receive? You know, name the program, knowing that might help the committee.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. I'd be interested in hearing from other members of the committee about what is the likelihood of ISP providers responding. It's an investment of time, whether it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes, it's still time. And so I'm curious, like, what's in it for them to invest that time, and what's a strategy that we can use to make sure we do get responses?
I think that's a good question. And can anyone attempt to answer that?
Yeah, I'd make a comment on that. I think it's quite likely that the smaller ISPs would respond to this, because they're always looking for opportunities, and I think this presents one to them. That being said, I think the larger companies, it always matters. It depends on who you get to, and it's very difficult for anyone, including us as the committee, to get to the right staff, to get to the right, within a Bell or a Rogers, or even an Eastlink for that matter. Although I think but I think small operators would quite willingly invest the time and respond to this. That's my comment on that.
Mr.
Julie?
Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
I just wonder if it's all in how we present the survey. So if it's a matter of providing additional information about why this information is helpful, that will entice people into filling it out. So if it's that the connectivity is looking for information to support a Made in Elgin solution, and or to break down any barriers that exist for ISPs in providing internet services in Elgin County. So we could use the committee's help in identifying what those key elements are that should be included in that preamble, or the kind of hook. Like, here's how we want to use this information in order to work more closely with you as ISPs to solve Elgin's internet challenges. So any feedback would be really helpful.
I guess even if later on you have thoughts, don't hesitate to contact Julie. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think, if I may, Mr. Chair, so I agree, we need that hook, so input will be great. And as far as the sending out strategy, if we can use a one-on-one contact, whether it's from the chair or with the CEO, and just really tailoring the email specifically to say, I'm reaching out to you. So it's very personalized. I think that should increase the response also.
Any further thoughts, opinions, questions?
I've got a couple of questions still about the survey itself. 13B, are we soliciting members for this committee? Because I'm uncertain why that's 13B is there.
We do still have committee vacancies.
Okay.
I just wonder at this point in time, is it wise to add to the committee?
Thoughts? How many positions are open, Catherine?
I believe we have 3 or 4 positions.
I don't think we would want to necessarily rule out adding anyone else that might bring a lot of value to the committee.
I can't argue with that. I would hate to shut the door on potentially good candidates. I think we can still we don't have to take everyone who volunteers, but if there's someone good, we'd certainly want to consider it. That's my take. Do we have a consensus? Justin, what's your thoughts?
I agree with you and Sean.
Dominique?
I agree to keep the involvement open as much as possible.
Have I missed anyone? Speak up if you have a comment. Mike, do you have any further questions on the form?
Yeah, just one small item, and this is maybe too nitpicky, but question 5 there, should that not be licensed spectrum as opposed to licenses? This is being sent out to service providers. If you say use licensed or unlicensed spectrum, I think.
I could change that.
Yeah, small thing, but
Okay, thank you for that. Other thoughts, questions? I think you've got approval, Catherine.
Thank you.
Can you think of anything else we need to cover, Julie?
If hearing nothing else from committee members, then just the date of the next committee meeting, which we loosely proposed November the 5th as the next date.
Okay, take a minute and check our calendars. I have a Board of Health at 3. I don't know if we can have it earlier. Probably at 1 we could be done and do both. What's everyone else's schedules like?
I'm not available for that meeting at all, but I would not suggest we schedule just for me.
Does November the 4th participants?
I'm on commission from the 4th to the 6th inclusive, so, no.
I'm available on the 4th. I can make the 5th work. Sean, Justin, how's your schedules?
4th and 5th work for me.
We've been meeting on Thursday. Maybe we should stick to that.
Yeah, the 5th works for me as well.
1 o'clock? Hearing no objections? I think pencil it in, Julie.
Thank you.
With that, we're pretty close to the end, but I'll throw it out. Any final thoughts from anyone? I'm extremely pleased. I think we're making great progress. Again, I want to thank staff. A lot of work done. Any further comments?
So I just wanted to agree with that, especially having missed the last meeting. There's been an incredible amount of work done, and it's very impressive.
Yeah. Glad to have you here today, Sean. All right, if there's nothing further, I will call for motion for adjournment.
Headings?
Okay. We all good with that? Again, thank you all for your attention and tuning in and your time. And everyone have a good afternoon. Thanks very much. We are adjourned.